Clavicular isn't just a bad egg. His obsession with male beauty and with superficial identity isn't just a personal goal. Instead, he represents a wider trend within culture, one that rejects the other and embraces the individual. It began with Friedrich Nietzsche and the announcement of the death of God. This statement, while controversial at the time, would express the societal shift away from higher goods and truths, inwards towards the self. For many, it would reflect changing lifestyles towards individual freedom and liberty. However, this rejection of good would also lead to something much darker and dangerous, the superficial world we see today. But who exactly is Clavicular, and how does this all relate to him? Braden Peters, also known as Clavicular, is the face of Luxmaxing. He blew up in 2025 due to the extreme nature of his lifestyle and content. A series of controversies and viral clips would explode his popularity into the cultural domain.
I was kicked out of uni for essentially roid maxing and, looks maxing, whatever the term you want to use is.
But it wasn't just him that would become famous. His ideas and lifestyle also became a central point of internet discussion, with words like mogging, luxmaxing, and mentions of cortisol becoming widespread. For a time, it felt like you couldn't have a conversation without a mention of Clavicular or his lifestyle. A series of arrests, controversial moments, and a near-fatal incident would ultimately push Clavicular away from the spotlight. However, his lifestyle and slang would live on, still dominating the cultural landscape. In 2026, a website called Omegle was launched that allowed users to compare their facial dominance in a mog-off. It showed just how influential Clavicular's lifestyle could be, as even regular people that didn't subscribe to his ideas were hooked. It seemed infectious, and this is where I believe Clavicular represents a symptom of a wider trend within society. From the dawn of time, members of a species have competed against each other for dominance, and have used their physical traits to entice potential mates. From a peacock to the proboscis monkey, every creature has had their own methods of enticing females, and therefore showing their dominance. In the past, these dominant traits were usually carried by the animal most likely to survive, whether they were more healthy or more powerful creatures. Bigger and brighter feathers probably means you have a healthier diet than that other peacock. This type of competition is a long-standing animal tradition, but here is where it gets dangerous. Clavicular's performance often isn't an indicator of health, and the methods he uses to achieve peak performance are often in fact the opposite. From bone smashing to serious addiction issues, Clavicular's methods of dominance have been shown to be ineffective and often dangerous, with some viewers pointing out that he has looked as though he is physically decomposing. The most intense example of this was a near-fatal overdose that happened live on stream, bringing into questions the goals of his lifestyle. Is luxmaxing worth it if it kills you? But this also brings into question something way deeper. Because if traditional methods of physical dominance existed to show health and to encourage reproduction, now it seemed those same ideas were glorifying something way darker. Our primal instincts have been flipped on their head, and instead of dominance, they are leading to our doom. And it feels like this is part of what Nietzsche was talking about with his death of God. Because when we don't have anything higher to strive for, we are stuck staring into the self and into the abyss. And if you gaze long enough into an abyss, the abyss will gaze back into you. However, what happened afterwards would completely shift the narrative. Clavicular would post an update on X after his near-fatal accident, and it revealed something unexpected about the streamer. That despite the superficial dominance he had been trying to project, he was actually very insecure, and trying to cope with being in a social situation. It revealed that the substance abuse was a way to feel neurotypical. It suggested that underneath the confident persona, there was actually a deeper want for belonging. It matched up perfectly with an assessment made by another streamer called Toji about Clavicular.
Do you actually think Clavicular is autistic?
I guarantee you he's autistic.
And how do you have this guarantee?
Everything he does. Have you seen a video of him trying to get the pizza and then he sees the camera looking at him trying to get the pizza and he just gives up on the pizza? There's social cues like that. No regular non-autistic person is gonna act that way. And I think being autistic for most people is a superpower.
That's what I think too.
So definitely autistic and also definitely a good thing.
If this was true, it would suggest that really Clavicular was just trying to find a way to succeed in an environment that he saw as dominated by overconfident, conventionally attractive men. This idea would undermine his lifestyle completely. And then something else did the same thing. In an interview with 60 Minutes Australia, Clavicular would get the chance to explain his beliefs and lifestyle to a more mainstream audience. It was an opportunity for him to reinforce his worldview and to demonstrate his dominance. However, something unexpected happened. and Clavicular would struggle to shake the feeling that he himself was being mocked.
Was born out of the incel community and movement. And do you identify with that group? How do you feel about being linked to that group of people? Are you mugging me right now?
In what metric?
Any?
Anyone who watched the interview immediately got the feeling that Clavicular's whole lifestyle had been undermined, as a seemingly normal guy was able to show he could mog, no techniques or drugs needed. So not only was his lifestyle killing him, but it wasn't necessary to even achieve his goals in the first place. The interview seemed to show a shred of hope that Clavicular's self-destructive tendencies weren't the way forward. However, the interview didn't do enough to address the wider cultural landscape that Clavicular had seen and craved to be a part of. Clavicular wanted to be the peak of masculinity, and he saw that as being the most blindly confident and superficial you can be. This is a symptom of how social media has warped traditional culture, because more so than the real world, it pushes the most dominant and ideal examples of media in that space. People don't get likes for being themselves or being genuine, they get likes for being a caricature and acting out a role. And the one thing that social media really optimizes for is extremism. Without any doubt, content that is shocking or eye-catching is what gets the most notice, and this just so happens to be the content that is most often dangerous. It doesn't get clicks to be normal. Instead, you have to live a perfect life, or clip farm, or invent insane challenges with big cash prizes. The most shocking thing will almost always come out on top, monetizing our most personal feelings and hidden thoughts. This is what makes a superficial world so dangerous. It isn't just that it's fake, it's that the superficial world spends so much energy trying to feel real that it can get away with being unnatural, with lacking any meaningful substance. A man called Alexei Yurchak would say of the collapse of the Soviet Union, everyone in the Soviet Union knew the system was failing, but no one could imagine any alternative to the status quo, and politicians and citizens alike were resigned to maintaining the pretense of a functioning society. This is the predicament we are seemingly faced with in the social media landscape, where everything has been optimized, but not for survival or prosperity like in the past. Instead, it's for engagement and profit. This landscape, filled with show-offs, perfectionists, and LARPers, is the real thing that should be being criticised. Clavicular isn't that old, and he has grown up looking and obsessing over this environment and its superficial perspective of society. There is an old phrase, fake it till you make it, and while it isn't exactly harmful on its own, the story of Clavicular shows how faking it till you make it, while allowing you to achieve success, can also be a harmful and self-destructive way to go on. Unfortunately, it's a wider trend in society being rewarded. We'll just have to see who the next victim is. Thanks for watching, and remember to like and subscribe.